I'm going to talk about some of the things that happened in CCP4i2 over the past year. I'll spend, I think, most of the time talking about changes to the documentation, because that's been a pretty large sort of user visible change to the program and is quite recent. So Kyle will be giving a lunchtime bite on CCP4i2, not me. Kyle, we're doing this on Friday. So if you have any questions that can't be answered this morning, then you should probably pester Kyle on Friday. I hope he doesn't object. So I'll show you some pictures in a second, but we've essentially made a complete overhaul of the program's CCP4i2's documentation, not CCP4i's, sorry, first typographic error. Complete overhaul of the documentation. It has been essentially not completely rewritten. The context has remained the same, but we've translated it to a new format and then use some magic to make it look almost very pretty now these days. And it's available not on the CCP4 website at the moment, but through the CCP4 website, and you can also access it through the program. And one of the main bonuses of what we've achieved here is that other people apart from us can actually edit the online documentation. I'll get to that later. It doesn't result in immediate changes. It's not like a wiki or anything, but people can contribute to the documentation, and we can accept or reject it. Okay. So as I say, if you go to the CCP4 website, and click on documentation or documentation, there's two ways of doing it.
Sorry, Stuart, do you have a presentation, or you?
Oh, can no one see my slides?
We don't see it now.
Oh, heck. Sorry.
Everything was very clear, but I just thought.
Everything very clear, but I'm, yes. All right, let's try again. Right. Can you see me now?
Yeah, we can see them, yeah.
Apologies, sorry. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll skip to it. Sorry. Yes, so I said the one thing, yes, that I'll just show you again. Kyle is giving a lunchtime bite on Friday, so please go on to that. I'll skip the next slide. At the CCP4 website, which I was intending to show you, clicking on the documentation will take you to this page where we have this latest documentation on Git Lab. And we go to that, and that is our new documentation. And it has quite a few new features. We have the ability to search. There's a table of contents here. This is, I'll expand on some of this later. So you click on these and you can see the sort of more detail about where you are in the documentation. You can browse through it all, click on here, go to home, and all in all, there's just kind of, it just looks prettier than what it had beforehand and is easier to navigate and find what you're looking for. You can also get to it through the program. So from the help tutorials, there's various links. None of them go to the root page, but they take you to various places within the documentation. At the moment, the edit on GitLab feature does not work from within the program, but we'll probably be able to make that not the case in the future. Okay, so the search works like this. If you type in a search string and then hit the return button, then you get all the results for that throughout the whole of the CCP4i2 documentation. So anything to do with molecular replacement, you will get a little link here and you can click on that and go to the relevant pages. And you can also go to the task documentation. So for the top link there, that will take you to information about all the tasks. So you get a page. This is rather bare bones page, doesn't give you very much information, but you can get down the left-hand side, this automatically generated table of contents. So you can go to any program in these for CCP4i2. I'll go to the molrep one at the top, and you'll see then the table of contents expands further. And we've got input and results. And of course, you see the page on the right-hand side. If you've got a very small screen, I've just shrunk my browser window here, but you may have it on a mobile phone, for instance. The documentation still looks pretty. You get a burger menu instead of the left-hand bar, and you click on that, and that brings up the context of what was in the left-hand side of the screen beforehand. So you can use all the navigation features, but they're hidden by default. And I say, because this is hosted on the Git Lab, you can click on this button up here to edit any page. If you click on it at this page here, this is the top of the documentation, you will go to edit this page. If you click on the edit on GitLab onto any other thing that you're viewing, like for instance the MoleRep documentation I was showing earlier, it will open up the ability to edit on that page. So the root of the documentation looks very dull. There's not much there at all except generate table of contents. We won't worry about the details of this. Of course, you have to sign in, so you can't just do this as an anonymous person. I've now signed in, and I now have the ability to click on an edit button, and that brings up the source of this documentation. It looks a bit terrifying, but believe me, it's far less error prone than editing HTML, and you know, it's not that hard to learn. You can also browse through the whole documentation tree. So at any point you can click on links. So I've clicked on a few links and got to this part of one of our tutorials, and you can click on this thing here, this top one, CDK1, and you can go to see all the files that are contained within that particular tutorial and all the files that are used by it. This betablip.rst is the main page of the tutorial. I've clicked on that, and it shows you what the generated HTML will look like. And again, even here, we've got the edit button again. I click on that, and this looks a little bit more complicated. But again, you can just edit the stuff on the fly. These bottom bits here are the images. Oops, didn't mean to click on that, sorry. Are images, and you can specify size and all kinds of things. It's quite complicated, but it's hopefully not as hard for people to learn as HTML. Okay, so in order to use that, you need a GitLab account. You need to understand the format that's being used there, RST. I knew nothing about it quite recently, but of course what you just do is you copy somebody else's document and you just change the words. It is more forgiving than HTML. You can make terrible errors and still render something, which is not necessarily the case with HTML. That may be seen as a good or a bad thing. It is simpler and hopefully a bit easier to learn. If members of the CCP4 team or CCP4i2 team make change to documentation, that will be immediately or sort of immediately become available online in the CCP4i2 documentation. If you are not a member of the CCP4 team, but you make edits, then they will generate a request to change things, which will then be seen by the CCP4i2 administrator, Kyle Steenson, and he will decide whether to accept your edits or not. Okay. In addition to all that, as Billy mentioned in his talk, there is a CCP4i2 YouTube channel. You don't have to remember all that, because it's all being recorded. Okay, so moving on, Ronan has made some changes to Mr. Bump, and indeed the way that Mr. Bump is seen by CCP4MG and CCP4i2. There are quite a lot of changes, but the user visible ones in CCP4i2 and CCP4MG are that the what were previously called domains are now called ranges. So this makes things a little bit less confusing about what a domain is in terms of Mr. Bump or in terms of structure. There's just a set of atoms. You can also now, through CCP4i2, tell CCP4MG to work with a local PDB mirror. This is not a thing that many people will do, I guess, but it does make running the program considerably faster. And you can also now use results of running HHpred on a web server rather than using the similarity search results, homology search results from FUMA that come with the program and come with the CCP4 suite, I should say. And that can help you find analogs in more difficult cases. From the user visible perspective, all that's really changed is we've got two additional boxes at the bottom. Specify your HHpred results file, or tell the program where your PDB mirror is. And that's the only change to CCP4i2 that's user-visible, although quite a lot has changed under the hood. In CCP4MG, what that does now is that we've changed domain to range. That might not look very interesting, but there are also now arranged more nicely. Previously, these overlapped, and now they're stacked so that you can see all the ranges more clearly. And there are no checkboxes just to show a particular range at a time. Everything else works as before. Yeah, Roden did quite a lot of work on this quite recently. I won't say anything about this. I had a few slides of this, but Kevin mentioned this was the whole somebody's talk. But Kevin's shift-fill refinement is now in the MoreF and Buccaneer pipelines. I think it might be coming to Phaser MR as well. Kevin could probably comment on that, or maybe Hugh. A new CCP4 program to make links using ASTRUC, not a new program, but new feature program, making links with ASTRUC, has been incorporated into CCP4i2 as well. And the interface looks like this. You can just do a search in the monomer library for a particular residue, and you can then specify which atom you want to link, and same for the second residue. And then you can click all these boxes to say whether we're sort of making single bonds or double bonds and all that kind of stuff. Okay, another feature that's been developed by Martin Noble over the past year is this i2 run. This is basically adding scripting capabilities to CCP4i2's pipelines. So basically what we're trying to do here is leverage the complicated pipelines within CCP4i2 and turn them into simple to run command line programs. And that you basically do this like this. It's actually quite simple. You do i2 run, and then you do the name of the pipeline, and then the input files. In these two cases here, the top one says use an existing project called Gamma Demo. The second one says I want to create a new project called Gamma Demo 3 and put everything in this directory. And it's also possible to run with just a temporary database so that there isn't one stored at all. So as Martin said, why would you do this? Sorry, I've lifted these slides complete from Martin's documentation. The reason is that you can do more than you would just do with a RefMac. You can leverage the abilities of the whole pipeline. You've also got the bookkeeping capabilities of CCP4i2 to run as well. I've also recently added a way that you can basically, even if you do complete madness, like remove your complete CCP4i2 database, you basically get it all back with one simple command. Now, I haven't shown you what to do, but that's now possible. The way that one enters asymmetric unit information has changed. The list widget is somewhat different. Basically means editing the number of copies of different things is easier, and it's indeed possible to delete things from the list more easily. And importantly, we've now got the Matthews solvent content analysis is done on the fly within the input of the task, so that you know whether you're going to actually generate something useful or not, indeed whether or not to bother running the job. And that information also comes out in the report. Boring technical stuff, CCP4i2 should now be Python 3 compatible, and in the near future will be ported to, well, has been ported to Pi2/Qt5, and that will be available when it's released by CCP4. And of course, there's been lots of other stuff. I've got lots and lots of people to thank. Some of you CCP4, and there's some names repeated in there. These are people responsible for all the individual programs and whatnot. And one final thing, do the quiz tonight, which I, Nick, and Diana will be hosting. So please come along to that. The important bit there is no organization of the teams. So if you want to be in that and want to be in a team, sort that so cells out. Otherwise, log on to the quiz tonight. Thank you. I'll stop there.